Good morning. Tess. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Police and Peace Officers 43rd Annual Memorial Service. I am Staff Sergeant Julie Mann from the Ottawa Police Service, and I am accompanied today by Superintendent Rebecca Sutherland from the Canada Border Services Agency. Bonjour et bienvenue au 43e service commémoratif annuel des policiers et des agents de la paix canadiens. Je suis le sergent d'état-major Julie Mann de la police d'Ottawa et je suis accompagnée du surintendant Rebecca Sutherland de l'Agence des services frontaliers du Canada. High Constable John Fisk, Constable Timothy Pomeroy, Constable Charles Richards, Constable Johnson Cochran, Constable Jeremiah Dunn, Inspector of Fisheries William Gibbard, Constable John Curry, First Nations Constable Ruben Onslow, Guard Henry Trail, Chef Charles Calpin, Agent Thomas Dobin, Constable George Clark, Sub-Constable John Nash, Landing Waiter Andrew L. Wilson, Sub-Constable George Mahoney, Sergeant Lazare Doré, Constable Marmaduke Graburn, Constable John T. Usher, Constable Claudius S. Hooley, Chief of Police Richard Power, Landing Waiter and Searcher Huey McLean, Constable George H. Johnson, Constable Adam Wall, Constable John Lawson, Sergeant Thomas Fennessy, Senior Jailer George O. Leach, Constable Thomas J. Gibson, Constable George K. Garrett, Constable George P. Arnold, Constable David L. Cowan, Corporal Ralph B. Slay, Corporal William H. T. Lowry, Constable Patrick Burke, Constable Frank O. Elliott, Constable John Malone, Constable John Beatty.
Prison Guard John Rutledge, Constable Alfred Perry, Constable James Heron, Sergeant Albert E. G. Montgomery, Corporal Harry O. Morphy, Constable Georges Q.R. de Beaujeu, Mason Instructor David Cunningham, Constable William T. Reading, Constable William Pope, Constable Joseph E. Stedman, Special Constable John R. Davey, Detective Henry H. Fair, Constable Robert Rankin, Constable William Lindsay, Constable Indian Peter, Sergeant Colin C. Colebrook, Constable Oscar A. Kern, Sergeant William B. Wild, Constable John R. Kerr, Corporal Charles H. S. Hawken, Constable Michael Toohey, Chief Alexander D. Main, Constable William Boyd, Constable Spencer G. Heathcote, Constable Norman M. Campbell, Special Constable Stick Sam, Staff Sergeant Arthur F. M. Brooke, Constable James Barron, Provincial Constable William Irving Jr., Constable Joseph Russell, Constable Deputy Sheriff John W. Clarkson. Constable Thomas R. Jackson. Corporal Alexander G. Haddock. Assistant Surgeon Walter S. Flood. Constable Archibald Powell. Constable John R. Acton.
Constable George Shea. Constable George E. Wilmette. Sergeant Ralph M.L. Donaldson. Special Constable Isaac Decker. Deputy Warden Richard H. Stedman. Constable Arthur W. Lane. Agent Jules Fortin. Constable Daniel O'Connell. Special Constable Alfred J. Sampson. Constable Richard O. Taylor. Inspector Francis J. Fitzgerald. Constable George F. Kinney. Gendarme Spécial Samuel Carter. Constable John Beatty. Constable Jeffrey H. Aston. Constable Louis Byers. Constable Alex Kindness. Constable Francis W. Davies. Inspector Herbert G. Herbert. Constable Robert G. McIntosh. Guard John H. Johnson. Constable Charles Rook. Constable Harry Westaway. Corporal Maxwell G. Bailey. Constable Matthew Hamilton. Chief John A. McCarthy Jr. Constable James Archibald. Acting Sergeant Paul Smith. Constable Michael J. Fitzgerald. Constable John McMonaghy. Agent Honoré Bourdon. Detective Richard Levi. Immigration Officer William C. Hopkinson. Customs Inspectors James C. Adams. Turnkey Robert E. Coxford. Constable William Rourke. Agent Alphonse Desjardins.
Immigration Deportation Officer Marshall Jackson. Chief Constable Malcolm McLennan. Constable Arthur S. Duncan. Constable Bernard W. Snowden. Constable Frank Beavers. Deputy Sheriff James McKay. Acting Detective Frank A. Williams. Guard Anton Fladebi. Staff Sergeant George A. Bossange. Constable George Armstrong. Constable William Nixon. Penitentiary Guard Joseph Purcell. County Constable Albert Springstead. Head Turnkey Arthur Awiti. Constable George Stanfield. Agent Thomas Chicon. Sergeant Donald Forbes. Constable Frederick W. E. Bailey. Corporal Ernest Usher. Constable Alex McCurdy. Constable Robert Forster. Constable James Utley. Sergeant Arthur G. Searle. Constable Richard A. Beard. Constable Frank H. Sissons. Constable Reginald Pryor. Assistant Superintendent Norman J. Agnew. Governor John McNabb. Corporal William A. Doak. Constable George E. Osgood. Agent Anthony J. Tierney. County Constable William L. Picard. Constable William M. Holloway. Constable Stephen O. Lawson. Constable Robert G. McBeath. Constable Joseph Truman. Agent Jean B. Baudry. Constable Charles N. Paris. Detective Fred Lefebvre.
Sergeant John Urquhart. Constable Charles Fulton. Constable Ian M. McDonald. Jail Matron Margaret A. Mick. Park Warden Andrew D. Bauer. Constable Leo F. Cox. Penitentiary Guard Stanley Blyth. Highway Traffic Officer John E. Waddell. Agent Évariste Laframboise. Constable Frederick Rains. Constable Stephen P. McAvor. Game Warden John Billings. Game Warden S. Clark Russell. Guard John Williams. Guard Malcolm E. Jenkin. Inspector Thomas H. Constable. Agent de pêche Agapit Leblanc. Constable Frederick Rhodes. Constable Charles W. St. Charles. Customs Inspector William G. Hughes. Custom Inspector Turner Ingalls. Constable William O.K. McGilvery. Constable Andrew McKay. Constable Lee W. Metcalf. Constable Ernest Sargent. Constable Russell P. Hayward. Constable Albert E. Wells. Traffic Officer Hiram F. O'Callaghan. Agent Léo Villeneuve. Chef John Gannon. Constable Norman F. Maker. Constable Albert Fisher. Sergeant Richard H. Nicholson. Detective William R. Clark. Constable Miles Campbell. Constable Thomas I. Keogh. Park Warden Percy H. Goodare.
Constable Fred Bingley. Sergeant Thomas Kirk. Constable James Urquhart. Provincial Game Warden Dennis Greenwood. Agent Dollard Pelletier. Constable James A. McNichol. Constable Roy A. McQuillian. Special Constable Norman Massan. Constable Donald R. McDonnell. Chief John B. Lunt. Agent Paul Bocage. Constable Blair C. Brown. Constable John F. Montgomery. Chief of Police John W. Bourdon. Game Warden Arthur H. Eisenhower. Constable Albert J. Nault. Constable Edgar Millen. Constable Charles Hefferon. Provincial Constable Daniel J. Craig. Corporal Leonard V. Rawls. Forest Ranger Lawrence Lee. Provincial Game Warden Albert E. Ferry. Constable Joseph Riley. Constable Joseph DeFerrari. Quarry Instructor Gabriel Childs. Inspector Lorne J. Sampson. Inspector Joe Carruthers. Constable George A. Lenhard. Investigator James Mackey. Agent Joseph Lafleur. Constable Russell Lemon. Constable Colin C. McGregor. Constable Percival Carr. Constable Frank Gisborne. Chief Jules Vachon. Sergeant John Verne. Constable Edward McMaster. Corporal Michael Moriarty.
Detective Charles Miller. Constable William Wainwright. Constable John G. Shaw. Sergeant Thomas S. Wallace. Constable Charge C. Harrison, Constable Daniel Miller, Constable Charles Gillis, Ranger Danny Corcoran, Constable George E.J. Lewis, Guard John McCormick, Constable Orville E. Story, Guard John S. Sangster, Constable Bernard Junot, Constable George H. Howard, Detective Leopold Chateauneuf, Constable George E. Horan, Sergeant Frederick Davidson, Agent Émile Perra, Constable David D. Beckett, Constable Bartlett Smith, Constable Robert D. Iddington, Constable Donald C. Sherville, Acting Detective James H. Watson, Inspector William Service, Sergeant Robert Gibson, Park Warden Fred Carter, Constable Elmer A. Shepard, Agent Lucien Bourgelat, Ranger Michael Green, Constable Willis E. Rodenizer, Constable Frederick R.T. Blutcher, Constable Norman A. Gledo, Constable John McDonnell, Sergeant Arthur J. Barker, Constable Frederick J. F. Council, Constable Alfred J. Ferguson, Constable Harry G. Rapier, Agent Gérard Bouchard.
Constable Harold H. Dent, Constable Donald L. Piquel, Sous-Inspecteur Gérard Bougelot, Constable Roland W. J. Allen, Constable Wilfred J. Cox, Special Constable Henry C. Jarvis, Constable Ovila Roy, Constable Frank P. Clark, Turnkey Kierwood Wright, Constable Harry Fordham, Gendarme Albert G. Chartrand, Constable John W. Scott, Constable John Moyes, Customs Officer George A. Jackman, Corporal Lawrence P. Ryder, Chief of Police Thomas S. Espy, Constable Charles F. Hayner, Surintendant Maurice Powers, Corrections Officer Edwin L. Pierce, Constable Henry Farmer, Constable George R. Vanderveer, Jail Guard Robert H. Canning, Constable Robert W. Duncan, Game Warden Wilf Faubert, Detective Thomas Stoneman, Constable Robert A. Wright, Constable Harry L. McKenney, Agent Charlemagne Bouchard, Ranger Michael Collins, Constable Wilfred J. Cobble, Constable Simon F. Fisher, Constable Charles Boys, Constable Oliver Lettingham, Constable Francis A. Graham, Constable Douglas Reynolds, Guard John D. Kennedy, Constable M. Carl Gray, Agent Georges Yule,
Constable James B. Henderson, Fishery Officer Kenneth E. Weaver, Constable Murdoch J. McDonnell, Constable Carl F. Wilson, Agent Paul E. Duranlot, Agent Nelson Paquin, Forest Officer Howard Pegg, Constable Reginald G. Morden, Constable Edward Terrell, Constable Jerry Doe. Provincial Constable Jack Ferguson. Constable George R. Vaughan. Constable Cecil Holden. Constable Alexander Gaman. Constable Herschel T. Wood. Detective Sergeant James E. Sims. Constable John C. Johnson. Agent Alfred Sauvé. Constable Frank Harry. Sergeant Joseph R. Battersby. Constable Millard A. Brennan. County Constable Mount A. Wood. Agent Ernest Laverne. Detective Sergeant Edmund Tong. Detective Sergeant James Priest. Constable Stephen Casper. Customs Inspector Percy New. Constable Francis P. Stamp. Constable Kenneth H. Lennon. Constable Joseph K. Sander. Constable Ronald C. Bloomfield. Agent Robert Lévesque. Constable Douglas E. Ferguson. Agent Fabien Galipeau. Agent Georges Constantino. Park Warden Robert Jones. Constable George Donnelly. Agent Ernest Paul. Agent Florian Poirier. Constable Roy E. Laird.
Constable Charles W. Ray. Conservation Officer Lee Branscombe. Deputy Warden Jim Noble. Constable Gordon Sinclair. Inspector David J. McComb. Constable William L. Melsom. Constable John A. C. Behan. Warden William F. Trant. Constable Henry C. A. Chandler. Constable Matthew Kausinka. Agent Ernest Chalfou. Constable Louis R. Durant. Constable David A. Romano. Constable John R. Cobley. Agent Charles Houle. Sergeant Claire J. McGillen. Constable Philip H. Delarue. Constable Peter R. Seburn. Constable Henry J. Harper. Constable Ronald Pitt. Agent Francois Florent. Constable Kenneth J. Delmage. Constable George W. Smith. Constable Maurice Melanchuk. Constable Glenn F. Farrow. Constable David M. Perry. Constable George H. E. Ransom. Corporal Herbert M. Smart. Constable Carl L. Sundell. Agent Charles-Edouard Denis. Staff Sergeant Stanley S. Rothwell. Gendarme Spécial Joseph E. R. Cormier. Constable Richard W. Green. Agent J. Davila Levesque. Constable Willis J. Jacob. Constable John T. Hoey.
Agent Roger Beaupré. Constable Calvin R. Ralford. Correctional Officer Ira S. Smith. Constable William Moss. Sergeant Malcolm J. F. Jack. Constable John B. Perkins. Constable Earl M. Doyle. Conservation Officer Harold B. Thompson. Forest Ranger J. Leslie Greer. Constable Colin E. Lelliott. Constable Robert N. B. Kirby. Constable Edward R. Wickens. Matron Emilia Nadeau-Morel. Chef Hubert J. Corbin. Sergent Lucien Donny. Agent Jean-Marc Godmer. Constable Theodore D. Christensen. Constable Ronald A. Ekstrom. Agent Marcel Lacombe. Agent Gérard Richard. Agent Gérard Bernier. Constable Wayne Sinclair. Agent Fredo Simard. Guard William C. Wentworth. Détective Roger Robidoux. Constable Dennis J. Winstanley. Detective Lawrence W. Short. Constable Frederick J. Nash. Constable Donald J. Wingsberger. Constable Jordan E. Peterson. Constable Elwood G. Keck. Gendarme Achille O.M. Lépine. Corporal James S. McDonald. Constable David R. Gregory. Agent Marcel Roch. Constable Thomas J. Black. Constable John W. McNutt. Agent Claude Marino.
Agent Denis Brandbent. Agent Maurice Trapanier. Constable James W. Foreman. Agent de correction Joseph E. R. Tellier. Constable Harley Highland. Agent Philippe Malot. Constable Jeffrey A. Armstrong. Constable Proctor L. A. Malcolm. Corporal Robert W. Aspill. Sergeant Kenneth M. Laughlin. Constable William J. D. Anand. Constable Arthur T. Truman. Constable Patrick C. Armstrong. Inspector Arthur S. Trentham. Constable Roy G. Genex. Detective Sergeant John H. Bassett. Detective Kenneth J. Evans. Gendarme Joseph P. F. Dubois. Constable Walter E. McCauley. Constable Calvin L. Byam. Guard Irvin J. Gisbret. Constable Alexander M. Proden. Guard Edwin J. Masterton. Caporal David Chenard. Conservation Officer William Monroe. Constable Robert W. Amy. Constable Reginald W. Williams. Constable David B. Robinson. Constable Neil M. Bruce. Constable Kenneth G. Cornelson. Conservation Officer Bob Gunthier. Conservation Officer Carl Little. Agent Émile Lachance. Sergeant Laurier Quesnel. Agent Guy Renaud. Caporal Georges Elie. Conservation Officer Alfred B. Newland.
Constable Ronald F. Webster. Constable Thomas P. Carroll. Conservation Officer Charles Moorish. Constable J. Robert Mackey. Constable Philip J. F. Tideman. Constable Edward Oldsworth. Constable Larry Eso. Special Constable Ian F. Collinson. Constable Thomas J. Emery. Agent spécial Claude Gay. Agent Roger R. Beausoleil. Constable Gordon D. Pearson. Conservation Officer William McLeod. Agent Gérald Paradis. Constable Terry E. Tomfor. Constable Donald A. Harvey. Chief Donald Martin. Customs Officer Frederick F. Harris. Agent Yves Saint-Germain. Agent Roger Saint-Jean. Constable Robert W. Varney. Constable James I. Hamilton. Conservation Officer Al Comfort. Game Warden Austin W. L. Letcher. Detective Charles Geary. Agent Ghislain Martineau. Sergent Détective Gilles Jean. Constable Gerald F. Miles. Agent Gérard Deschamps. Constable Peter J. Kirk. Constable Samuel E. Ankenman. Agent André Duhaime. Probationary Constable Bradford E. Brown. Agent Alain Falardeau. Detective Sergeant Lorne J. Chapatis. Constable James A. Kerr. Corporal James Smith. Constable Stan Christie.
Sergeant John C. McCurrich. Agent Gilles Boutin. Corporal Terry G. Williams. Constable Leonard W. C. Shakespeare. Constable Robert Carrick. Constable David Goldsworthy. Caporal Robert Dumas. Assistant Forest Ranger Silas Belkey. Sergeant David J. Tuckey. Constable William R. Rogers. Detective Ronald E. Houston. Constable Stefan H. Schultz. Constable Mark L. Holden. Constable William J. Green. Constable Douglas B. Anson. Sergeant Robert J. Schrader. Sergeant James A. O'Malley. Constable Derek T. Ivany. Constable Harold S. Siegel. Constable John C. A. Verral. Agent Gabriel Labelle. Agent Bernard Charlebois. Constable Michael R. Mason. Agent Jean J. Saporin. Agent Fernand Bertrand. Constable Donald H. Lewis. Detective Douglas T. Sinclair. Detective Michael Irwin. Constable Leslie E. Gardner. Jail Guard John V. Starchuk. Constable Claire L. Lackey. Game Warden Ernest St. Pierre. Garde chasse Meredith Côté. Garde du Parc Robert Merrick. Park Warden James Brink. Constable James Lothian. Constable Leslie Maitland. Agent Marc-André Gagnon.
Fishery Guardian John Young. Fishery Guardian Calvin Swires. Agent G.P. Richard Meret. Agent Richard Larente. Detective Thomas B. Cooper. Corporal Evan V. Gilmore. Constable George B. Molliali. Constable Leonard G. Slater. Agent Normand Tremblay. Constable Vaughn B. McKay. Gendarme Roger E. Pierrelet. Gendarme Joseph M.B. Letourneau. Gendarme Joseph H.C. Tremblay. Constable Luciano J. DeSimone. Carpentry Instructor Stanley Green. Constable John T. Draginda. Staff Sergeant Vaughn E. McKay. Agent Aimé Pelletier. Constable Michael O. O'Leary. Caporal Aurel J. Bourgeois. Detective Huey B. Davidson. Constable Gerald A. Thompson. Instructeur G. Louis Nadeau. Constable Gary V. McDonald. Constable Maurice R.J. Chatterson. Sergent Détective Gilles Beauvais. Correctional Officer Roy W. Eddy. Classification Officer Mary Steinhauser. Agent de correction Joseph A.P. Gosselin. Detective Ronald G. Sproul. Forest Ranger Gary Noseworthy. Assistant Forest Ranger Carl George. Constable Lee E. Wilson. Constable John B. Baldwinson. Corporal Eric W. Spicer. Corporal Donald R. Irwin. Caporal Michel Bédard.
Staff Sergeant Alan K. Harrison. Agent stagiaire de la Faune Alain Assiboin. Corporal Ronald E. Lee. Constable Paul G. Gosling. Agent Gérard Desfosses. Correctional Officer Conrad E. Coons. Agent Bernard Brassard. Constable Robert Brabant. Constable Dennis M. N. Shiwakowski. Constable William V. Shelever. Constable David C. Kirkwood. Special Constable G. David Foster. Agent J. D. Guy Sampson. Sergeant Ronald E. McKean. Highway Patrolman John Roscoe. Constable Joseph P. Brophy. Corporal Barry W. Lidstone. Constable John S. Kuznier. Constable Dennis A. Onofre. Directeur Michel Roy. Constable William I. Seward. Agent Jean-Claude Phoenix. Constable Thomas B. King. Constable James L. Begbie. Agent de correction Paul G. Fournier. Constable John Lau. Constable Henry Snedden. Constable Paul E. Patterson. Senior Correctional Officer Francis A. G. Eustache. Food Services Officer Joseph D. P. Maurice. Constable Lindbergh B. Davis. Constable Mark P. McCallion. Agent René Vallée. Park Warden Neil M. Colgan. Gendarme Joseph L. M. Doucette. Constable Gordon A. Brooks.
Special Constable Nijiosik Etildoy. Constable Duncan T. McAllisey, Ontario Provincial Police, Simcoe. Constable George H. Bennett, Ontario Provincial Police, Orillia. Constable Michael W. Sweet, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Forest Warden Albert Roy, New Brunswick Department of Natural Resources. Constable Roy J. W. Karwoski, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Garde de chasse Marc Comeau, Ministère des Ressources naturelles du Nouveau-Brunswick. Inspecteur des douanes Georges Allary, Revenu Canada Douane. Constable Richard J. Sedgwick, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Agent Gilles Lamarre, Sûreté du Québec, Montréal. Constable Thomas J. Ajar, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Correctional Officer William Morrison, Dorchester Penitentiary. Agent André Simard, Sûreté du Québec, Saint-Joseph-de-Beauce. Constable Thomas Hicks, Ontario Provincial Police, Sudbury. Constable William F. Shores, Ontario Provincial Police, Dudden. Constable Richard M. Vertecchia, Ontario Provincial Police, Huntsville. Agent Pierre Brûlé, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Agent Serge Lamy, Sûreté du Québec, Joliette. Constable Pearlie S. Calhoun, Fredericton Police. Constable Kenneth M. Sweat, Ontario Provincial Police, Ottawa. Fishery Officer Joseph Tremblett, Fisheries and Oceans, Canada. Corporal Ol R. Larson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan. Constable James F. Thomas, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Forest Officer Roger N. Oniski, Alberta Forest Services. Constable Percival B. Cummings, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Sergent Jacques Martin, Sûreté du Québec, Matane. Agent Michel Vincent, Police de Longueuil. Agent Emmanuel Cloutier, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Constable Barry F. McKinnon, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Perthapol Sangera, Vancouver Police. Agent Laurier Bédard, Sûreté du Québec, Chicoutimi. Constable William H. Smith, Ontario Provincial Police, North Bay. Detective Inspector Lorne I. Foran, Ontario Provincial Police, Toronto. Constable Richard J.C. Hopkins, Ontario Provincial Police, Mount Forest. Garde de Parc Robert L. Leblanc, Parc Canada. Senior Correctional Officer David Vander Abili Sr., Archambault Institution. Surveillant principal de correction Léandre Leblanc, Établissement Archambault. Agent de correction G.B. Denis Rivard, Établissement Archambault. Constable Douglas A.M. Butler, Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Detective Volker H. Shija, Peel Regional Police. Detective William T. Hawkins, Peel Regional Police. Agent Serge Laforêt, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Agent de correction G. A. Serge Delhomme, Service correctionnel Canada, pénitentiaire de l'Archambault. Agent Richard Dubé, Sûreté du Québec, Québec. Constable Richard A. Bourgoin, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Russell R. O'Connor, Ottawa Police. Constable Bruce K. Crew, Ontario Provincial Police, Goderich. Constable David W. Utman, Nepean Police. Constable Daniel L. Q, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Natural Resources Officer Robert C. Logan, Manitoba Department of Natural Resources. Corporal Francis E. Jones, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Special Constable Wayne G. Myers, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Vehicle Inspection Officer Graham J. Jackson, British Columbia Ministry of Transportation and Highway. Corporal William F. McIntyre, Ontario Provincial Police, Toronto. Constable Robert C. Anderson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Living Unit Officer Jophus G. Wendell, Stony Mountain Institution. Living Unit Officer Werner R. Friesen, Stony Mountain Institution. Constable Douglas F. Tribling, York Regional Police. Constable Dwayne B. Picula, Peel Regional Police. Constable David A. Dunmore, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Patrouilleur Pierre Beaulieu, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Constable John G. Ross, Ontario Provincial Police, Woodstock. Constable William J. Grant, York Regional Police. Constable Vernon I. Miller, Ontario Provincial Police, Matheson. Sergent Détective Robert Laroux, Police de la Communauté Urbaine de Montréal. Constable Alan G. Gisbray, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Michael J. Boudet, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Constable Richard J. McLaughlin, Ontario Provincial Police, Spanish. Agent Yves Tétu, Police de la Ville de Québec. Agent Jacques Gigère, Police de la Ville de Québec. Sergent Jacques Filion, Sécurité publique d'Almer. Constable Donald C. Campbell, Ontario Provincial Police, Kincardine. Agent Jacinthe Fife, Police de la Communauté Urbaine de Montréal. Garde-chasse Alain Chouinard, Ministère des Réseaux, Pêche et Fonds du Québec. Gendarme Mario G.E. Tessier, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada. Special Constable James F. Wilson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan. Special Constable Wayne P. Boskill, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan.
Constable Randall F. Skidmore, Ontario Provincial Police, Quebecong. Special Constable Robert Thomas, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Manitoba. Corporal Maurice R. Levoy, Ontario Provincial Police, Little Current. Auxiliary Constable Frederick A. Abel, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Corporal Bud M. Johansson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Agent Claude Saint-Laurent, Police de la Communauté Urbaine de Montréal. Constable Scott G. Berry, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Agent Marcel Simard, Police de Saint-Hubert. Agent Robert Barry, Police de la Communauté Urbaine de Montréal. Agent Danny Tremblay, Sûreté du Québec. Caporal Jacques Hamel, Sûreté du Québec. Special Constable Gordon Z. Kowalczyk, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Sergeant Larry T. Young, Vancouver Police. Agent Emmanuel J. Aucoin, Patrouille routière du Nouveau-Brunswick. Corrections Officer Alvin A. Frank, Ministry of the Solicitor General and Correctional Services, Saskatchewan. Conservation Officer Henry Kujula, Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. Constable Stephen J. Piesel, Niagara Regional Police. Agent Roland Larochelle, Sûreté du Québec. Constable Huey J.M. Lynn, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Agent Gaétan Boutin, Sûreté du Québec, Campbell's Bay. Agent Mario Camiré, Sûreté du Québec, Campbell's Bay. Agent Richard Rochefort, Sûreté du Québec, Rimouski. Agent forestier Donna F. Lalonde, Ministère des Forêts, des Terres et de la Faune, Service des Forêts de l'Alberta. Conservation Officer Donald C. Wood, Nova Scotia Department of Lands and Forests. Constable John R. Gregovsky, Ontario Provincial Police, Niagara Falls. Corporal Derek G. Flanagan, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Delia Biak, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan. Investigator Grant E. Martin, Canadian Pacific Railway Police, Toronto. Garde de chasse Luc Guindon, Ministère des Ressources Pêche et Fonds du Québec. Natural Resource Officer Keith M. Bartley, Manitoba Department of Natural Resources. Special Constable Nancy M. Puckamary, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Special Constable Vincent N. Timms, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Conservation Officer Murray L. Doyle, Saskatchewan Department of Natural Resources. Constable Ezio J. Ferrone, Edmonton Police. Caporal Marcel Lemay, Sûreté du Québec. Constable Gerald V.M. Breeze, Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Sergent Jean-Claude Cadieux, Sûreté du Québec. Correctional Officer Daniel Lennon, Solicitor General Correctional Services, Ontario. Agent Yves Feneuf, Police de la Communauté Urbaine de Montréal. Sergeant Thomas J. Cooper, Ontario Provincial Police, Grassy Narrows. Conservation Officer T. Arthur Hagen, Saskatchewan Department of Natural Resources. Constable Brian J. Hutchinson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Scott W. D. Rossiter, Ingersoll Police. Constable Christopher C. Rigler, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Andrew B. Gordon, Ontario Provincial Police, Madoc. Constable J. E. Sam Balmer, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Garde chasse Patrick Poirier, Ministère des Ressources, Pêche et Fonds du Québec. Constable Robert J. Vanderweel, Calgary Police. Park Warden Patrick D. Sheehan, Parks Canada. Agente Chantal Mathieu, Sûreté du Québec, Saint-Agathe. Constable Jeffrey Palawatsi, Niagara Regional Police. Constable Brent H. Viefkind, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Probation Officer Bill Kennedy, British Columbia Ministry of the Solicitor General and Corrections Services. Constable R. Eric Nysted, Ontario Provincial Police, Minden. Constable Joseph McDonald, Sudbury Regional Police. Constable Richard Sonnenberg, Calgary Police. Constable Richard M. Jean, Ontario Provincial Police, Castleman. Agent Alain D. J. Desforges, Police Provinciale de l'Ontario, Castleman. Sergent Détective Paul Simard, Police de la Ville de Québec. Agent Yvan Filteau, Police de la Ville de Québec. Agent Gaston Paradis, Sûreté du Québec. Constable Albert S. Taylor, Nissintuan First Nations. Agent Stéphane Roy, Sûreté du Québec, La Sarre. Customs Superintendent James Finamore, Revenue Canada, Customs. Customs Inspector David Moore, Revenue Canada, Customs. Customs Inspector Ruth Coram, Revenue Canada, Customs. Constable Todd E. Bayless, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Park Warden Simon Parbush Singh, Parks Canada. Constable John W. Knight, Metropolitan Toronto Police. Sergeant Malcolm N. Williams, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Manitoba. Directeur J.J.E. Denis Nadeau, Saint-Marie Police. Constable Kenneth Y. Roy, Ontario Provincial Police, South Porcupine. Natural Resources Officer 3, Ken Squark, Manitoba Ministry of Natural Resources.
Constable Norman H. Atkins, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Gendarme Joseph E.A. Gagné, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada. Agente Odette Pinard, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Lynn Sharber, Saskatchewan Department of Social Services. Senior Constable Michael W. Gula, Ontario Provincial Police, Niagara Falls. Agent André Lalonde, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Sergeant Derek C. Burkholder, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Lunenburg. Constable L. Tyler Francis, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Fishery Officer Dean J. Miller, Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Conservation Officer Breton Thomas, Saskatchewan Environment and Resource. Conservation Officer Kevin R. Misfeld, Saskatchewan Environment and Resource. Correctional Officer Arnold H. Harrison, Spring Hill Institution. Senior Constable Thomas P. Coffin, Ontario Provincial Police, Midland. Agent correctionnel Diane Lavigne, Centre de détention de Montréal. Agent correctionnel Pierre Rondeau, Unité de mouvement et de comparution de Montréal. Forest Officer Daniel W. Brink, Alberta Environmental Protection. Forest Officer Gordon W. Brown, Alberta Environmental Protection. Gendarme François L.J. Carrière, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada. Constable Gerald Fortis, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Detective Constable William D.J. Hancox, Toronto Police. Corporal Graham C. Cumming, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable David R. Nicholson, Waterloo Regional Police. Agent Dominique Courchaine, Régie intermunicipale de police de la région de Joliette. Senior Detective Keith A. Badger, Ontario Provincial Police, Caledon. Deputy Sheriff James C. Askew, Attorney General, Sheriff's Services, Kamloops, British Columbia. Gendarme J.E.J.G. Daniel Bourdon, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Saskatoon. Sergeant Richard T. McDonald, Sudbury Regional Police. Agent principal Charles Mercier, Police provinciale de l'Ontario, Niagara Falls. Senior Project Officer Daniel T.A. Rowan, Correctional Service Canada. Senior Constable James C. McFadden, Ontario Provincial Police, Chatham, Kent. Constable Mark Neuwinzer, Delta Police. Sergeant Margaret G. Eve, Ontario Provincial Police, Chatham, Kent. Gendarme Noël S. Sadé, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Alberta. Special Constable Timothy J. Nicholson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Sergeant Edwin M. Mobley, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Agent Alain Forgette, Police de Saint-Hubert.
Agent Alain Matt, Police de la Communauté urbaine de Montréal. Constable Johnny D. Petropoulos, Calgary Police. Constable Sigurd W. Holton, Halifax Regional Police. Park Warden Deirdre J. Dunsford, Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. Constable Jurgen S. Seawald, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Nunavut. Forest Officer John H. T. Graham, Alberta Sustainable Resource Development. Constable Darren L. Beatty, Calgary Police. Constable Peter Majdik, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Manitoba. Constable Dennis D. Strongquill, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Manitoba. Constable Martin Lefebvre, Shawinigan Police. Park Warden Michael G. Wynn, Parks Canada, Jasper National Park. Constable Laura J. Ellis, Toronto Police. Agent Benoit Lecuyer, Police de Montréal. Constable Christine E. Diot, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Whale T. Audi, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Constable Paul E. Newdirt, Walpole Island Police. Senior Constable Alan G. Kuzmich, South Simcoe Police. Officier du Sheriff Michel Lagage, Bureau du Sheriff, Campbellton, Nouveau-Brunswick. Constable Jimmy Nig, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Caporal Antonio Arsenault, Sûreté du Québec, Laval. Conservation Officer Walter Seolin, Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources, Sault Ste. Marie. Senior Constable Philip R. Shrive, Ontario Provincial Police, Renfrew. Constable J. L. Ghislaine Maurice, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Senior Constable John P. Flagg, Ontario Provincial Police, Kingston. Corporal Stephen D. Gibson, Canadian Armed Forces Military Police, Alberta. Agent Patrick Levesque, Sûreté du Québec, Gaspé. Corporal Jim W. G. Galloway, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Christopher G. Garrett, Cobourg Police. Agent Tyler L. Boutellier, Police Provinciale de l'Ontario, Grenville. Parole Officer Louis Partager, Correctional Service Canada, Northwest Territories. Constable Michael J. Sydock, Ontario Provincial Police, Port Credit. Constable Anthony F. O. Gordon, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Leo N. Johnston, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Brock W. Myrol, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Peter C. Scheiman, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta.
Gendarme GMM Jean Mengy, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Colombie-Britannique. Constable Jose Agostino, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Andrew J. Potts, Ontario Provincial Police, Bracebridge. Agent de protection de la faune Nicolas Rochette, Ministère des Ressources naturelles et de la faune du Québec. Chef de service Fernand Vachon, Ministère des Ressources naturelles et de la faune du Québec. Agent Valérie Gignac, Service de protection des citoyens de Laval. Agent John D. Goyer, Police d'Abbotsford. Corporal Randy Payne, Canadian Armed Forces Military Police, Alberta. Corporal Matthew Dining, Canadian Armed Forces Military Police, Ontario. Senior Constable John C. Atkinson, Windsor Police. Agent principal Donald G. Y. Doucette, Police de Sault-Sainte-Marie. Constable Robin L. Cameron, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan. Gendarme Marc G. D. Bourdage, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Saskatchewan. Constable David Mounsey, Ontario Provincial Police, Wingham. Agent de protection de la faune Richard Cahouette, Ministère des Ressources naturelles et de la faune du Québec, Montgamy. Agent Daniel Tessier, Service de protection des citoyens de Laval. Detective Constable Robert Plunkett, York Regional Police. Constable Christopher J. Warden, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, NWT. Constable Douglas A. Scott, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Nunavut. Agent Éric Lavoie, Service de protection des citoyens de la ville de Laval. Constable James L. Lundblad, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Alan Hack, Ontario Provincial Police, Elgin County. Agente Mélanie Roy, Service de la police de la ville de Lévis. Constable Eric Chapnick, Ottawa Police. Sergeant Mark Gallagher, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Chief Superintendent Douglas E. Coates, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable A. James Okarski, Peel Regional Police. Constable Vu Pham, Ontario Provincial Police, Wingham. Constable Chelsea A. Robinson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Gendarme Michael B. Potvin, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada. Agent Sébastien Coughlin Goyette, Sûreté du Québec. Sergeant Ryan J. Russell, Toronto Police.
Constable Garrett Stiles, York Regional Police. Agent Vincent Roy, Police de la Ville de Bromont. Constable Derek W.H. Pinio, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Community Peace Officer Rodney F. Lazenby, Municipal District of Foothills Protective Services. Agent Katia Hadwichi, Sûreté du Québec. Agent Donovan Lagrange, Sûreté du Québec. Constable Adrian J. Oliver, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Wildlife Officer Howard J. Labers, Newfoundland and Labrador Department of Justice. Agent Steve Derry, Police Régionale de Kativik. Constable Jennifer A. Kovach, Guelph Police. Conservation Officer Justin A. Naxted, Saskatchewan Ministry of Environment. Constable John Zivixi, Toronto Police. Gendarme Fabrice J. Jovden, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Dave J. Ross, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Gendarme Douglas J. Laroche, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada. Correctional Officer Rhonda L. Commodore, Manitoba Corrections. Commercial Transport Enforcement Officer Tony D. Christensen, Department of Transport and Infrastructure, British Columbia. Constable David Wynn, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta. Constable Daniel Woodall, Edmonton Police. Agent Thierry Leroux, Police de Lac-Simon. Constable Sarah A. Beckett, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, British Columbia. Agent Jacques Ostigny, Sûreté du Québec. Gendarme Richier Dubuc, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Québec. Gendarme Francis Deschênes, Gendarmerie Royale du Canada, Nouveau-Brunswick. Constable John Davidson, Abbotsford Police. Constable Ian D. Jordan, Victoria Police. Constable Rob Costello, Fredericton Police. Constable Sarah M. Burns, Fredericton Police. Correctional Officer 2, Lisa J. Zorb, Correctional Service Canada.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Kelm, retired member from the Ottawa Police Service. Please take your seats and remove headdress. The service will be starting momentarily. Bonjour, mon nom est Teresa Kelm, membre retraité de la police d'Ottawa, membre de la congrégation. Asseyez-vous s'il vous plaît et enlevez vos chapeaux. Le service va commencer dans quelques moments. Please take note that during the ceremony, after the lament and last post, there will be the firing of the cannon. I am letting you know so you do not get alarmed. This year, the cannon will be fired near us. We have provided you with earplugs for your protection. Veuillez prendre note qu'il y aura 2 coups de canon pendant la cérémonie. Nous vous en faisons part pour ne pas que vous vous alarmiez. Cette année, les coups de canon vont avoir lieu près de nous. Nous avons fourni des bouchons d'oreilles pour votre protection. Today's service is the 43rd Canadian Police and Peace Officers Memorial in recognition of our fallen officers. Today, we want to recognize the 2 officers who lost their lives this year and 2 historical officers. Constable Heidi Stevenson, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, H Division, East Hants Enfield Detachment, Nova Scotia. On April 19, 2020, Heidi lost her life in Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia, while on duty. Constable Alan Post, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, D Division, Court Liaison Unit, Manitoba. On December 13, 2019, Alan lost his life in Winnipeg while on duty. Constable John Hickey, Brantford Police Service. Superintendent Dennis Massey, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, K Division, Alberta. Aujourd'hui est le 43e service commémoratif des policiers et agents de la paix canadiens. Aujourd'hui, nous voulons rendre hommage aux 2 agents qui ont perdu la vie cette année, ainsi que 2 agents décédés entièrement. L'agente Heidi Stevenson, Gendarmerie royale du Canada, Division H, Détachement Hants Est Enfield, Nouvelle-Écosse. Le 19 avril 2020, à Shubenacadie, Nouvelle-Écosse, Heidi a perdu la vie lorsqu'elle était en devoir. L'agent Alan Post, Gendarmerie royale du Canada, Division D, Unité liaison avec les tribunaux, Manitoba. Le 13 décembre 2019, à Winnipeg, Alan a perdu la vie lorsqu'il était en devoir. L'agent John Hickey, Service de police Brantford. Surintendant Dennis Massey, Gendarmerie royale du Canada, Division K, Alberta. While we salute Constable Heidi Stevenson and Constable Alan Post's bravery today, we will respect their families' wishes and wait until 2021 to complete our tribute to our fallen heroes. This year is unique, and we did not want this year to pass without honoring our fallen officers. We have not forgotten the 889 men and women who lost their lives while serving their communities. At last night's vigil, the tablets were rededicated after being restored to their original and permanent location beside the Memorial Pavilion. These tablets are a tribute to the police and peace officers who made the ultimate sacrifice while serving and protecting the people of our country. Pendant que nous saluons la bravoure des agents Heidi Stevenson et Alan Post, nous respecterons les souhaits de leurs familles et attendrons jusqu'en 2021 pour compléter notre hommage à nos héros. Cette année est unique et ne voulions pas qu'elle passe sans honorer les 889 hommes et femmes qui ont perdu la vie en servant leur communauté. Après la vigile d'hier soir, les panneaux de verre ont été réinaugurés et remis à leur emplacement d'origine et permanent à côté du pavillon commémoratif. Les panneaux de verre sont un hommage aux policiers et agents de la paix qui ont fait le sacrifice ultime en servant et protégeant la population de notre pays. Ladies and gentlemen, the welcome address by the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, the Honourable Bill Blair. Mesdames et Messieurs, allocution de bienvenue du ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile, l'Honorable Bill Blair.
Thank you very much, Constable Clem, President Larkin, President Lewis, President Stamatakis, Chief Slowly, Commissioner Lucky, distinguished guests. On behalf of the Government of Canada It is a very sincere honor to be here this morning and to meet you on the traditional Algonquin territory. Today is obviously not like any other Police and Peace Officer Memorial Day. Our proud memories of gathering on Wellington Street, marching up onto the hill and saluting our fallen comrades is not possible this year. And yet we will prevail. Over the past several days, officers have walked, run, pedaled and rode in remembrance of those who have died in the line of duty. And in ceremonies across the country, we have remembered and celebrated their service and their sacrifice. And today, as we gather virtually from across the country, and although at an appropriate distance, we stand united in our remembrance of those individuals who have died, of their families, their friends, their colleagues, and their communities. And so let us now take a moment to still our minds, to put aside the distractions of our daily lives, and take a moment to reflect and to remember. Today is a solemn day. It is a day upon which we remember with sadness the tragic death of a beloved husband or wife, a lost father or mother, a cherished son or daughter, a dear friend. We pray that with the passage of time, their grief and their pain will diminish, but we know that their loss can never be forgotten. And today, and every day, we want them to know that we have not forgotten their sacrifice and their loss. They remain in our hearts and in our prayers. And we shall share their grief in the loss of our colleagues and friends, and we will always remember them. But on this solemn day of grief and remembrance, we also share a profound sense of pride. It is not just their passing that we commemorate today. Today we honor the choice that they made to answer the call of duty, to serve and protect their fellow citizens, to place themselves in harm's way to protect others. We share a pride in their remarkable legacy of service and of sacrifice, a legacy of service and sacrifice that has been earned by generations that have gone before us, and it is a legacy that each of us must resolve to uphold. Every day, police and peace officers do the thousands of things that make a difference in our daily lives and keep us safe. They do their jobs with honor, with integrity, with professionalism, and with respect. They uphold their oath of office, and we are very grateful for their service. Today as well, we honor the tragic passing of two RCMP officers, Constable Alan Popes of the RCMP's D Division and Constable Heidi Stevenson of the RCMP's H Division. Constable Pope, as you've heard, was a 13-year veteran of the RCMP serving in Manitoba. Let us also remember that he was a husband and a father of 3 teenage daughters whose sacrifice we remember today. Constable Stevenson was a 23-year veteran of the RCMP, and she gave her life to protect others during that terrible tragic mass shooting in Nova Scotia in April. And her heroic actions demonstrated the dedication and bravery with which she conducted herself on a daily basis, and which is a shining example of what we have come to expect from police and peace officers across Canada. Heidi left behind a husband and 2 children. We grieve with them and with her colleagues and friends. And on behalf of the Government of Canada and all Canadians, I would like to extend my deepest sympathies to the families, friends, and colleagues of these officers and to all officers who have fallen in the line of duty, and my gratitude for their service and their sacrifice. As you've heard, their names will join those of the more than 875 fallen officers that are engraved on the glass panels of the Honor Roll. We will also be adding next year 2 historical officers, Superintendent Dennis Edward Massey of the RCMP and Constable John Hickey of the Brantford Police Service. As we gather today to remember those we have lost and to celebrate a remarkable legacy of service and sacrifice, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Government of Canada and all of Canadians to thank the men and women of our police services and peace officers who across the country answer the call to duty and keep us safe. We are grateful for your service and we honor your work. Please be safe. God bless. And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Canadian Peace Officers Memorial Association, Chantal Lewis. Mesdames et Messieurs, la présidente de l'Association canadienne commémorative des agents de la paix, Chantal Lewis.
Good morning. Bonjour à tous. Famille et amis de nos officiers décédés en devoir, Minister Bill Blair, and to the sworn officers who maintain the peace and uphold the laws of our country. On behalf of the Canadian Police Officer Memorial Association, the Canadian Association of Chief of Police, and the Canadian Police Association, it is a tremendous privilege for me to stand here and pay respect to the women and men who have sacrificed their lives to serve and protect their community, their nation. Au nom de l'Association canadienne des agents et agentes de la paix, de l'Association canadienne des chefs de police et de l'Association canadienne des policiers et policières, c'est un immense privilège pour moi d'être ici aujourd'hui et de rendre hommage aux hommes et aux femmes qui ont sacrifié leur vie pour servir et protéger leur communauté, leur nation. This year is an unprecedented year. Living with the current restrictions for everyone's well-being, we are prevented from being together in person to mourn our loss. However, I am certain that we are all here in spirit. Cette année est une année sans précédent où il n'est pas possible de tous se rassembler au même endroit pour commémorer les agents décédés en devoir. Pour le bien-être de tous, nous ne pouvons pas être ensemble en personne pour partager notre deuil. Cependant, je suis certaine que nous sommes tous ici par la pensée. To the colleague of those who have fallen, who despite the truth, continue to show courage and valor in the face of danger, and especially to the family of whose lives have been turned upside down at the loss of a loved one. You have been called upon to bear a special burden, and thought there is no speech or ceremony that can ease your pain, nor tribute deep enough. Today we join together in a memorial service to honor their courage and to fill your hearts with our nation's gratitude. Aux collègues de ces agents décédés dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions, qui, malgré les risques quotidiens, continuent de faire preuve de courage et de bravoure face aux dangers. Et en particulier aux familles dont la vie a été bouleversée par la perte d'un être cher. Vous avez été appelés à supporter un fardeau spécial. Et bien qu'il n'y ait pas de discours ou de cérémonie qui puisse apaiser votre douleur, aucun hommage assez profond, nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui pour un service commémoratif pour honorer leur courage et démontrer la gratitude de notre nation envers eux. Every day, peace and police officers throughout Canada stand on guard to protect our rights and freedom. They put themselves at risk every day, and with this pandemic, there is more uncertainty when they answer a call or deal with a situation. Not only they want to return safely to their loved ones, but they want to keep them healthy as well. Chaque jour, des agents de la paix et de la police partout au Canada se dévouent pour protéger nos droits et libertés. Ils font face aux dangers quotidiens et avec cette pandémie, ils vivent une plus grande incertitude lorsqu'ils répondent à un appel ou font face à une situation. Non seulement ils veulent retourner à leur famille à la fin de leur corps de travail, mais ils veulent également les conserver en bonne santé. Each year we gather to remember those who we have lost and have the regrettable task of adding their names to the honor roll. Some historical and others sadly more recent. This year we lost 2 officers, and there are 2 historical officers that should have had their name engraved on our honor tablet. With the support and request of their families, next year the legacy of those unsung heroes will receive their place in our nation's history that they rightly deserve. Chaque année, nous nous réunissons pour nous souvenir de ceux que nous avons perdus et nous avons la tâche regrettable d'ajouter de nouveaux noms au tableau d'honneur. Certains décédés antérieurement et d'autres, malheureusement, plus récents. Cette année, nous aurions dû ajouter au tableau d'honneur le nom de 2 officiers décédés récemment et 2 officiers décédés antérieurement. Les circonstances courantes ont fait que nous en avons décidé autrement. Avec l'accord et l'appui de leur famille, l'an prochain, ces héros méconnus recevront une place qu'ils méritent à juste titre dans l'histoire de notre nation. Today we honor those officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. However, we cannot forget those officers who succumbed to mental health crisis. Aujourd'hui, nous rendons hommage aux officiers qui qui ont perdu la vie dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions. Cependant, nous ne pouvons pas oublier ces officiers qui ont succombé à des crises de santé mentale. To our fallen officers, for many generations to come, after we are all gone, you will be remembered for the sacrifice that you made. You are gone from us today, but your lives and service will never be forgotten. À nos agents décédés en devoir, pendant de nombreuses générations à venir, quand nous serons tous partis, restera gravé à jamais le sacrifice que vous avez fait. Vous nous avez quittés, mais votre vie et votre service ne seront jamais oubliés. Merci. Thank you. Please stand for the opening prayer read by Reverend Canon Robert Hurd, Chaplain, Ottawa Police Service. Veuillez vous lever pour la prière d'ouverture récitée par le révérend chanoine Robert Hurd, aumônier du service de police d'Ottawa.
Our thoughts now reach out to embrace the memory of all police and peace officers who have spent their lives and freedoms to ensure the lives and freedoms of the members of the communities entrusted to their care. They were and will always remain for us our friends, our comrades, our family. Their passing has brought us much pain and sadness. May perpetual light shine on them, and may their souls rest in peace. Ô Seigneur notre Dieu, vous qui avez veillé sur notre naissance, pour nous accueillir dans vos bras au moment de notre mort, soyez notre refuge et notre consolation, alors que nous pleurons la disparition de nos êtres chers. Aujourd'hui, embrassez-nous avec amour. Donnez-nous de l'espoir malgré la confusion et la grâce de nous abandonner à une vie nouvelle. Tout cela, nous vous le demandons par la puissance de votre Esprit éternel, dispensateur de vie. Amen. Please be seated for the first reading read by retired Constable Teresa Kelm from the Ottawa Police Service. Veuillez vous asseoir pendant la première lecture lue par l'agente retraitée Teresa Kelm du service de police d'Ottawa.
Je lève les yeux vers les montagnes. D'où le secours me viendra-t-il? Le secours me viendra du Seigneur, qui a fait le ciel et la terre. Qu'il empêche ton pied de glisser, qu'il ne dorme pas, ton gardien. Non, il ne dort pas, ne sommeille pas. Le gardien d'Israël. Le gardien, ton Seigneur, le Seigneur, ton ombrage, se tient près de toi. Le soleil, pendant le jour, ne pourra te frapper, ni la lune durant la nuit. Le Seigneur te gardera de tout mal. Il gardera ta vie. Le Seigneur te gardera au départ et au retour, maintenant à jamais. The second reading will be read by Reverend Robert Hurd from the Ottawa Police Service. La deuxième lecture sera lue par Révérend Rob Hurd du service de police d'Ottawa.
A reading from the Book of Wisdom. But the souls of the righteous are in the hands of God, and no torment shall ever touch them. In the eyes of the foolish, they seem to have died, and their departure was thought to be an affliction, and their going from us to be their destruction. But they are at peace. For though in the sight of people they were punished, their hope is full of immortality. Having been disciplined a little, they will receive great good, because God tested them and found them worthy of himself. Like gold in the furnace he tried them, and like a sacrificial burnt offering he accepted them.
Please stand for the lament and last post. Veuillez vous lever pour les lamentations. Please do not be alarmed after the laments. There will be the first firing of the cannon. If you wish, you may use your hearing protection. Si vous le désirez, vous pouvez utiliser vos bouchons d'oreille. We will now honor our fallen heroes with a moment of silence. Following the moment of silence will be the second firing of the cannon. Nous rendrons maintenant hommage à nos héros disparus en observant un moment de silence. Please be seated for the laying of the wreaths. Veuillez vous asseoir pour le dépôt des couronnes. The first wreath will be presented by the Honorable Bill Blair, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. La première couronne sera présentée par l'Honorable Bill Blair, Ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile. Representing the Canadian Police Association, President Tom Stamatakis. Représentant l'Association canadienne des policiers, le président Tom Stamatakis. Representing the Canadian Peace Officers Memorial Association, President Chantal Lewis. Représentant l'Association canadienne commémorative des agents de la paix, la présidente Chantal Lewis. Representing the United States of America Law Enforcement and Fraternal Order of Police, agent from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Jason Albert. Représentant l'Ordre fraternel des policiers et responsable de l'application des lois des États-Unis, l'agent spécial du Bureau fédéral des enquêtes, Jason Albert. Representing the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, President Brian Larkin. Représentant l'Association canadienne des chefs de police, le président Brian Larkin. On behalf of all the family members of our fallen officers, the final wreath will be laid by retired Assistant Commissioner Joe Oliver from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and Tricia Kirkwood, daughter of Constable Dave Kirkwood. Au nom de tous les membres des familles de nos héros disparus, la dernière couronne sera déposée par le commissaire adjoint retraité Joe Oliver de la Gendarmerie royale du Canada, ainsi que Tricia Kirkwood, fille de l'agent David Kirkwood. Please stand for the national anthems sung by retired Staff Sergeant Garth Hampson from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Members of the congregation, please replace headdress. Veuillez vous lever pour les hymnes nationaux. Membres de la congrégation, veuillez remettre vos chapeaux.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Quand on pourra porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Please remain standing for the prayer of dismissal. Veuillez demeurer debout pour la prière de départ.
Que Dieu te bénisse et te garde. Que Dieu fasse pour toi rayonner son visage et te fasse grâce. Que Dieu vous protège et qu'il vous donne la paix. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and fill you with his grace. The Lord protect you and give you his peace. Amen.
This concludes the 43rd National Memorial Service. Following the service, the Honor Guard will lay the wreaths at the tablets. To the families. Although you are not present here today on Parliament Hill, we are thinking of you and your loved ones, our fallen heroes, who have made the ultimate sacrifice for their communities. Our thoughts are also with our fallen heroes, friends, and colleagues. Ceci met fin au 43e service commémoratif national. Suite au service, la garde d'honneur déposera les couronnes près des panneaux de verre. Aux familles. Même si vous n'êtes pas présents ici, aujourd'hui, sur la colline parlementaire, nos pensées sont avec vous ainsi qu'avec vos proches, nos héros disparus qui ont fait le sacrifice ultime pour leur communauté. Nos pensées sont également avec les collègues et amis de nos héros disparus. Merci. Thank you.
Be
Amen.